All right, well, I guess Katie is feeling a little under the weather, so it looks like the Ant-Man and the Wasp review is going to have to wait a couple of days, so guess I'll just wait here.
Oh, hey, I'm here. We can do the thing.
Michael Douglas. What?
I do some dumb things, and the people I love the most, they pay the price.
In Marvel Studios' Ant-Man and the Wasp, we catch up with Scott Lang a mere 3 days before he's set to be released from the house arrest that he received as a result of his role in Captain America: Civil War. After a weird dream, he meets up again with fellow fugitives Hank Pym and Hope Van Dyne to help them free their respective wife/mother from the quantum realm after 30 years. And also there's a ghost or something. Katie, what did you think of Marvel Studios' Ant-Man and the Wasp?
I liked it. Ant-Man has never been one of the comics that are characters that I've been familiar with, really. The first movie I liked perfectly fine. This one I think I actually liked a little bit better than the first one.
Okay.
But yeah, overall I enjoyed it. James?
Yes?
What did you think of Ant-Man and the Wasp?
I disagree. Which I think maybe I watched it wrong, because the reviews it's getting are all relatively positive. You just said that you liked it. I thought it was kind of a hot mess.
Mm.
I mean, well, pretty much everyone agrees that Ant-Man's not one of the A-list heroes. I mean, with the exception of a mutual friend of ours, I can't say a single person who would say that the first Ant-Man was his favorite Marvel movie. I enjoyed the first one enough, but it's sort of just like the baseline. This is a movie that exists and isn't terrible in terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this movie just felt like it had way too much going on, and it wasn't as cohesive to me. I mean, obviously, I can't condemn it without watching it a few more times just to make sure and better form my argument. But I walked out of it feeling like there was so much just like I won't even say it didn't add up. It just didn't flow properly.
And now it is personally my favorite part of the whole thing, casting.
Yes. So I guess we should probably lead off with what Paul Rudd, who just he's fine as Scott Lang, I think. I mean, I had no problem with the casting choice. Not that I know a whole lot about Scott Lang. I should mention that I did read the Ant-Man and the Wasp Prelude comic that ties in with the movie, but it turned out to just be a graphic novelization of the first movie. Kind of salty about it. But Paul Rudd is an actor that, very much like the first Ant-Man movie, I enjoy enough in certain contexts. I very much enjoy him when he's just being the goofy, like, wet hot American Summer kind of Paul Rudd. But the other kind of character that he plays is just sort of the decent guy who's down on his luck. And that's what we get here. And he was fine. I don't think that my opinions on the movie had anything to do with Paul Rudd as a performer.
He's not one of the actors who, like, I'll go out of my way to see a movie that he's in, but I've never had any issues with anything I've seen him in.
I believe it was Jeff Winger on the Fantastic Show Community who said that religion to him is like Paul Rudd. He gets the appeal, and he would never want to take it away from anybody, but he's also not going to stand in line for it.
And then we have Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne.
Yes, another returning character.
And I do believe I read an article recently that said, or maybe it wasn't this one. Never mind. It was an article that said, like, it was a character that, because of her, taking the role, she, like, was thinking about kind of stopping acting for a while. I don't remember if it was this one or a different one though, so never mind. But fun fact.
Obviously, we all know Evangeline Lilly from Lost, and no other examples. Redhead or not, unforgivable.
It was The Hobbit that she...
Nope.
No, it was. That was the article.
You were talking about you weren't sure if this was the movie or this was the actor. Okay.
No, it was the actor.
movie.
100. Hobbit was the movie.
Yes.
I couldn't remember what that was.
As well, yeah.
So the only good thing about The Hobbit is it got us Hope Van Dyne.
I forgot the director again. God damn it. Ant-Man and the Wasp was, of course, directed by Peyton Reed, who directed the first Ant-Man film. And, like I said, while the first one was fine to me, this one, again, apparently it's not universal. It just, honestly, I can't get past the fact that these were supposed to be an Edgar Wright project.
Mm.
And I don't know the specifics as to why Edgar Wright left other than creative differences, but can you imagine if the guy who made Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz got his hands on this? And actually, I mean, some of his stuff made it into the original script because he left so late in the project, but that's a movie I'd be excited to see.
And then we have Michael Pena, Tip Harris, and David Dastmalchian.
Coming back as Lewis, Dave, and Kurt, the Scott's sort of crew.
Trio.
Yeah, obviously Michael Pena had the most substantial role in both films, but they kind of work. They work as their own little silly group. In this one, I'm glad that they didn't lean too heavily on the Pena's sort of joke from the first one. He only does it a couple of times in that movie where he just rambles on the story. This time they did it once, and I thought it landed because it was only once. If they kept doing it, I would have just pulled my own eyes out. But
well, they only did it the once in the first one, didn't they?
No, once at the beginning and once at the end.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, okay, we get this is his gag. They got to do it once.
Yeah, well, the circumstances,
and it was entertaining too.
The circumstances that it happened at also were appropriate. But yeah, no, that he was one of the big reasons I was excited about the movie, just like his rambling and silliness.
Yeah. Michael Douglas as the original Ant-Man / Hank Pym. Michael Douglas has been in a lot of things. He's been around for a long time, but I honestly can't say for sure that I've ever seen another movie that he's been in. I mean, Wall Street is the thing he's most well known for. And when you actually look at his IMDb page, there's not that many entries. They're spread out over a great range of years, but there's not that many entries. And in my head, I always kind of swap him out with Martin Sheen.
I can see that, I guess.
But as the sort of overseer, paternal figure, he's got a little bit more of a role in this one than he did in the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Gets a little bit more of a chance to show his acting chops, even though this is really not the movie for that.
This is the comedy chops.
Yeah.
And we have returning as well, Bobby Cannavale, Judy Greer, and Abby Ryder Fortson as the family.
Yes, Scott Lang's family. We do get to see a little bit more of Cassie in this movie, the daughter. And I think that she's enjoyable. I look forward to 10 years down the line when they make a Young Avengers movie and she's playing Stature alongside whoever ends up playing Girl Hawkeye, whose name I can never remember, but I know you know.
Kate Bishop.
That's the one. Judy Greer is Judy Greer. I mean, she's the go-to supporting actress in everything. And she does it fine, and I've heard interviews with her where she's totally happy with being the face of just the supporting actress because she's in everything. And Paxton, the actor, Bobby Cannavale, I always in my head he looks like he looks like a love child between Billy Zane and Sylvester Stallone. And so I always see either one of those two people when I actually see him.
I don't, but now I will.
Yep. You're welcome. New cast members. We have Hannah John-Kamen as Ghost / Ava. She's been in 2 episodes of Black Mirror. 2. Which is, I mean, you can't swing the movie stick these days without hitting a Black Mirror cast member. So that's not surprising. But other than that, she's in a show called, it's not a British show. It's a show called Killjoys. Sci-fi. She plays a mercenary alongside the other Aston.
Martin?
Nope, sorry. The other Ashton. Ashmore. The other Ashmore. Not Jake from Animorphs. Jake's other guy.
Aaron?
Yes, that's it. Aaron Ashmore. So I guess it's not British. But the point is, that's the only thing that I could find that she had a substantial role in. She plays one of Daenerys' handmaidens in a few episodes of Game of Thrones.
She looked like a tiny bit familiar, but I just assumed I'd seen her in some random British thing.
What did you think of her performance here?
All right. I mean, I don't. It's again one of the probably least familiar parts of the MCU characters, the grouping of characters. I know literally only from Ant-Man what I've seen from the other movies, so I had no basis for what like, you know, her character was meant to be. But
I looked into it a little bit, and the Ghost presented here is nothing like the Ghost from the comics. First of all, the Ghost in the comics is at least presented as a man, though nobody knows his true identity. He was originally, I think, an Iron Man villain. Similar powers, but everything else is different here, right down to gender. I think I had some problems with the Ghost character, but it wasn't necessarily because of the actress's acting. I think it comes down to a writing issue for me, but we can talk a little bit more about that once we get into spoiler territory.
And then we have Morpheus himself, Lawrence Fishburne.
That's how you think of him?
Literally, I can't see him in anything and not think of Morpheus. It's because...
No, I get it. I get it. And to be fair, he's probably more well-known for that.
He was also in that other movie with that other actor, and
Othello?
They never made a reference, and it made me sad. No, John Wick.
Oh, yeah, he was. Heart of Darkness. I think just them appearing on camera together counts as the reference. Because no one's going to not make that connection. For me, he'll always be Cowboy Curtis from Pee-wee's Playhouse.
The most important thing he was ever in. Absolutely.
I mean, come on. You always wonder what he looks like with long, like shoulder-length, long, curly hair.
Every day.
It's the only way to find out. As far as his role here...
Yeah.
I mean, I've made it very clear that I don't have a lot to say on this stuff.
Yeah, I feel like he, not that, you know, to discredit his acting in any sort of way, but I don't feel like he personally gave anything to that character. The character may not have had anything really to give. That is That's a very good point. I mean, we know Lawrence Fishburne can act. Yeah.
I mean, he's done Shakespeare. But it just, the character's not... I feel like some of the characters could have been more interesting if they had the story a little more focused on them. And that was kind of my problem with Ghost, too. Everything just seemed secondary to, we gotta save Janet from the quantum realm. Mm-hmm. And all the other things were just, like, shoved in there. I mean, I guess they were trying to make it cohesive, but I don't know. Walton Goggins. He's just such a weird actor. Like, I mean, he's not zany or anything, though he definitely, I mean, he does comedy. I've seen him in part. I haven't actually watched Vice Principals, but, you know, he's in that alongside Danny McBride, which you can't be on camera without being silly. It's just impossible. And then, actually, my first exposure to Walton Goggins was as... I don't remember the character's name, and honestly, I didn't really care for the show Sons of Anarchy all that much. It just wasn't my type of show. But he was a recurring character in it. He was transgender. And now, whenever I try to picture him, I always picture him in a dress with the long hair, even though I've seen him in more things now. But he, again, another one of those actors that had a lot of potential, but he does almost nothing.
Yeah, I mean, in the movie. Sometimes in real life, people just do nothing.
No, I know, and I generally have no problem with that, but it's like when you're making it, sometimes you don't need to shove all this stuff in. It's like, you have these posters, and you're like, oh, Walton Goggins, I'm excited for that. And he's in, like, 2 scenes, and does basically nothing.
Yeah. I don't think I'd ever seen him in anything before this.
But he does have a very recognizable face, like, you can't... Yeah. And name, I guess. I mean, whose name is Goggins? Walton Goggins.
Goggins.
That's a made-up name. The incomparable Randall Park as Jimmy Woo. I did not realize this before looking into it for this video, but Randall Park has an extensive career in Hollywood, does a lot of voice acting. The only thing I've really ever seen him in besides this is Fresh Off the Boat, which is a show I thoroughly enjoy. But other than that, he was one of my favorite parts of the movie, which is going to seem hypocritical when I get into a little more detail as to some of the issues I had, but he just... I don't know. There's just something about the guy's delivery that feels so genuine.
So delightful.
He plays a great straight man. And that's one of the reasons he's so funny on Fresh Off the Boat, is he's not trying to be funny, he's just being himself, and he is funny.
And finally, we have Michelle Pfeiffer, who is Janet Van Dyne, the original Wasp, and is probably known, at least for me, from Stardust.
Yeah, again, it's a great movie. I really need to rewatch it again. Mm-hmm. We've been supposed to be doing that for years.
So
but Michelle Pfeiffer is another one of those actors that she's been around for a while, and you think she's been in a lot of things, but when you much like Michael Douglas, Michael Douglas. Much like when you look at her IMDb page, it's surprisingly shallow. It's very select roles over a long period of time. I for one, and I think most people would agree, just because Stardust wasn't that well known of a movie. I mean, it's a great movie, but the Catwoman in Batman Returns. That was the first time I ever saw her in anything, and very memorable performance. In no small thanks to Tim Burton's direction that he somehow has lost since then. We can't really talk too much about her character without going into spoilers. But again, kind of underutilized, I think. Well,
I mean, now she's established in the universe too, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, they could do more with her later on. But,
yeah, no, I would agree.
So.
No, the more I think about it too, the more now that we've said that they were just kind of underutilized. I think that is definitely a big theme for a number of the characters in the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, then you look at the poster, and the poster has all these faces on it, and you're like, oh, okay. And then half of them get maybe 15 seconds of screen time. While Katie's writing notes, I should let you know that moving forward, you run the risk of hearing spoilers. Some of the stuff we're going to talk about probably isn't all that spoilery, but just thought I'd give you fair warning. I'll try to remember to put a time code in so you can skip ahead. She's still writing, isn't she?
Did you tell him about the spoilers?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to start just to get the big issue off of my chest. And this has less to do with this movie in particular, and more just the character and concept of Ant-Man to begin with. With the first movie. Mm-hmm. The problem I have with Ant-Man is not... I mean, I enjoy Paul Rudd enough, and, he's fine. But Ant-Man as a character and his powers and some of the physics in these movies, they just raise so many unanswered questions, and I am the kind of person that can affect my ability to enjoy a movie. I've gotten better about it, but, so, okay, we get the first movie, and he's all shrinky and stuff. And they explain, you maintain density and things like that, so you still punch with the force of a fully grown man, even though you're this big. Okay, whatever, I buy that. But how come he also gets stronger when he gets bigger? I mean, shouldn't his density be decreasing so that as soon as there's, a light breeze, he just, floats away? I appreciate the fact that in this film, they did take the time to, they had a little throwaway line about, you can't open the door to the shrinky car while it's shrunken smaller. And I assume, they didn't actually say it, but I assume that applied to the shrinking building as well. And that's great, but at the same time, and even the superpowers aside, but those little discs that they throw, when you throw the growing thing on the salt shaker, the salt shaker grows.
Yep.
The growing thing hit the glass part of the salt shaker. What tells the cap to grow? And what tells the salt inside to grow? Maybe it's because it's a self-contained unit. Okay, but what about when they throw it at the Pez dispenser? Why? That's at least 3 parts to a Pez dispenser, assuming there's no Pez in it. Why doesn't... It just raises too many questions, and I have to point it out, and now we can go on to actually talking about the quality of the art.
Good art. Kind of going on that, the same... Not necessarily the technicality part of it, but just the fact that it is going to be a movie based on shrinking and things growing and just that sort of fighting that we did see a little bit of in Civil War, and the first one, I guess. I was kind of worried about the action sequences, the few trailers I had seen with the car shrinking and stuff. I was like, well, that's just going to look silly and not work well. And it did look silly, but I thought it was great.
It was entertaining.
It was entertaining. It didn't end up being as big of an issue for me anyway as I was anticipating it to be. I think part of it might have been too that certain other movies I would have recently been disappointed with because I was expecting one thing and got another. I was expecting one thing and I got what I was expecting. So I think that also very much helped.
That's fair. Mitigate your expectation. Yeah, but okay, on that subject, the car.
Yeah.
Okay, it shrinks down. How's it keeping up with a full-size car? And then there's the one where Michael Pena's driving the little hot rod, and he's going on a city street, and he gets air I get that the full-size car that has a great deal of mass and inertia can get air, and they're in, what, San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
This is a Matchbox car. Technically a Hot Wheels, whatever. No.
But it was a real car that had been shrunk down.
I don't care.
So it maintained its engine power. So one of the things that I did very much enjoy about this movie is getting to see so much more of the family aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it might just be because I have nephews who are, younger too, but that whole opening sequence with like crawling around the tunnels and stuff, that was like fantastic. I absolutely loved that.
One of my notes did explicitly say Scott Lang, he's a good dad. And you buy, Paul Rudd, you buy him as the aw shucks good dad who maybe makes a couple of dumb decisions, but you can tell that he really loves his daughter. So, yeah, full credit there.
Yeah, but just the little things like that too, and where everyone was kind of, the cohesive family unit, and everyone was giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, even the ex-wife and the new husband they care.
Yeah, you can't just come
friends and they hug
here.
and stuff.
Yeah, no, I liked that a lot. That was good.
I know that I already talked about physics issues, and I wouldn't bring it up again. I totally would. If it weren't for the fact that this is kind of fundamental to the plot, and it's something that's been on my mind since the first movie, right? So, in order to stop that bomb, Janet had to go subatomic to get inside and dismantle it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's sort of the crux of what happens at the end of the first Ant-Man. And you see, I have to go subatomic to shrink between the molecules to get inside. But the thing is, if you're already that small, once you get inside the machine, how are you smashing or damaging anything? Because, if you're already small enough to fit between the molecules, how is he hitting transistors and things like that? That indicates to me that he somehow got bigger again once he was inside, but doesn't that mitigate the whole continuous shrinking in the quantum realm thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, because you would think, you shrink between the molecules, grow a little bit, mess stuff up, but that was the issue.
That's the thing. He reversed the direction. So I don't know. There might be an explanation that they just haven't given us, but it just doesn't seem to add up in my head.
That's fair.
Yeah. And on the subject of the quantum realm, Michelle Pfeiffer, Janet Van Dyne, she's been trapped in the quantum realm since the 80s. 1987, I remember. Because she had to shrink down, go through the molecules, and she's been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking in the quantum realm, and they find her 30 years later. How is she not, insane? First of all, how is she alive? I mean, what's she eating? Dark matter? I don't know what the quantum realm is.
I don't know. Well, they did the kind of explain away thing though too, where this place changes you. She has some sort of powers now because she was there for so long.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying it can't work in this case. This is less of a nitpick and just I'm curious.
Yeah. I'm sure she went crazy at some point. And
she's been there for 30 years. She didn't starve to death. Okay, I can buy that. Time works differently, but she's aged. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be actual natural aging. It could be a product of the realm. But she looks about 30 years older. She hasn't gone insane. But to be honest, I think that would have given Michelle Pfeiffer her character a little more depth and something. If she just comes back like no time has passed. Oh, I missed you guys so much. And there's nothing weird or wrong about her at all. And it could have given this movie an extra level that I think would have better utilized Michelle Pfeiffer, who again is plastered all over the posters. So.
Oh, maybe she didn't age, and then when she saw him, instantly aged to match him. Or
that's a possibility.
Just
maybe.
Thinking about it scientifically.
Because we didn't really get a good look at her face while we were there. Well, I'd have to watch it again. But yeah, it's a missed opportunity, is what I'm saying. If we're talking about this from an artistic and acting standpoint, I think that it could have made her character more interesting. And she really needed to be, because getting her back was the whole plot of the movie.
Yeah, big deal.
And it was just the plot just advanced by, new monkey wrench. It's like, I had a weird dream. Oh, she's in the place. We got to go to the place and we got to open the closet. Oh, okay. And now there's a ghost for some reason who wants our equipment. Then we have to go talk to an old colleague of mine who we don't know is tangentially connected to, not even tangentially, connected to the new adversary. And then he gives you advice on how to beat her, only to find out that it's a mad web.
It's a mad web. Like an anthill of sorts, just branching tunnels.
An ant farm. Nice.
I think part of that mad dash feeling and just weird timing might be that they were trying to keep it like a heist movie without there actually being a heist.
Yeah, and I think that actually might be part of what read as problematic to me.
Yeah, because I feel like...
it definitely felt similar to the previous movie, but without the direction, which I think I already said specifically.
I feel like I saw in some trailer somewhere they played it off as though it were a heist movie kind of thing. So I think
and you got the chase scene and all that stuff that was all.
So that might be at least sort of kind of an explanation of sorts of that weird kind of timing thing.
Yeah, I mean, related. I still find it confusing why. Okay, I get why. Actually, I really don't get why Lawrence Fishburne's character would help them in the first place when they show up. I guess maybe to assuage them of any suspicion, but why would they suspect him in the first place? And then when they get to Ghost's hideout and they have them all tied up, they explicitly say that they need Janet to do their plan. So why didn't they just wait and let them keep getting Janet and then wait for Janet to come back? Mm-hmm. It just seemed like the whole thing could have been solved if they just they knew that they were looking for Janet and they knew that they had a plan to get her back, but they were like, nope, I'm going to come in and steal your equipment so you can't do that thing I want you to do.
Yeah, well, there was one point where Lawrence Fishburne was like, well, Janet's real smart though, so why don't we just let them towards the end?
Well, no, I know.
And Avon was like, no, we got to do it now.
Okay. Looking back, that does kind of, she's just crazy enough. She's not all there, so she may have been driving it and he was trying to. But it still seems odd that if they were already doing what she wanted them to do, that she would interfere. But, crazy people. Crazy people who, feel like they have no time to get things done and they just need it done now. It's true. Yeah, it's more his character that could have been utilized to try to balance that out a little bit better. Because he did put his foot down for a few things. She was going to go after Cassie, and he was like, no, we're absolutely not doing that. Yeah. So, I mean, it was balanced weird, but... Yeah. Similarly, with the whole, the time restrictions and things like that... I know that we found out later on in the movie that they only had a small window to get Janet back. But when Scott first calls them about the weird dream he had, he has 3 days left on his house arrest. 2 years of house arrest. I get that they're excited, but is it really worth risking that? I mean, yes, again, we find out later on that if they didn't act then, they probably wouldn't have been able to get her back, but it's still just... you want to sympathize with Scott, and to be fair, Scott spends a lot of his time saying, no, I need to go back. But in the end, he's just like, whatever, I'll go along with it. And I don't know, it just... Nothing wrong with it, but it just, it seems wildly irresponsible to me. God damn it, I'm old. But if they had waited 3 days... I know, but they didn't know that. At some point, he does... I don't really have a lead into this. Scott does just posit, do you guys just put the word quantum in front of things? And I was thinking it the whole time, because there are at least a few times where they're clearly just, the writers are just like, yeah, no one's gonna know. But... Yeah, didn't he say something too in, it must have been Civil War, where someone was saying something and he literally just was like, really, guys? Or he said something, it was in the first Ant-Man, and he was like, why don't we just call the Avengers, Yeah, the thing everyone's singing. I think the first thing we should do is call the Avengers. I can't trust the Avengers for this. Yeah. But just he's definitely good for that. The keeping it real kind of. Although now less so maybe since he is a superhero himself. Yeah, he's learning a bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can only hang around with those people for so long before you start to pick up a little bit, I guess. Baba Yaga was those guys. I can never remember any of their names. Dave and Kevin, not Michael Pena's character. The other two guys. I forgot all about them until they showed up again, and I was super excited because even though they didn't have many lines in the first movie, they were hilarious. Mm-hmm. And in this, they were hilarious, especially the whole Baba Yaga thing. Right. Because when they were describing ghosts, he was like, "Oh yeah, it's Baba Yaga," and he doesn't actually explain what Baba Yaga is really, other than he does. I mean, Russian folktale, can walk through walls, comes for you at night, that sort of thing. But I mean. It was just, it's still not enough so that if you didn't know what that was, you would know. The person I went to go see the movie with didn't know and was just like, what is it? And I was like, don't worry about it. It's just know it's hilarious. Yeah. Just, the three of them really, just so funny. Yeah, I mean, they work as a unit, I think. And honestly, I didn't really mind their silliness so much. I think it was actually better crafted in this one. Just to because it was very reactionary. All of it made sense within the context of what was happening in the movie. On the subject of humor, so many of like the commercials and things like this for this movie are describing it as the funniest Marvel movie, and it's got its elements of humor. Certainly, you know, Scott Lang is he quips and he makes funny observations, and Hank Pym is very sardonic and really likes calling Scott an idiot, and you know, it's fine. Most of it's dialogue based. They're not jokes. It's just people being funny. Some of it seems a little bit heavy-handed. I mean, as much as I enjoy Jimmy Woo's character, there are a few instances in which you're just like, no human being would actually not be able to pick up on this, right?
He just really wanted to go out to dinner.
But the point is, at no point did I have any like legit LOL moments like I did in like Thor Ragnarok.
I was just gonna say or
the Guardians movies, because those are just silly. And this one, I won't say it was not funny, but I can't say it even comes close to rivaling other Marvel movies.
I would actually say that Ragnarok was probably the funniest Marvel movie so far, just if only because
they tried to.
Well, that and Thor wasn't really known to be funny, so just the fact that it was so funny.
Yeah, you look at his arc from the first one where he's just this guy who takes himself way too seriously and doesn't get jokes, and he's slowly just become goofier and goofier. He was goofy all along, he just didn't realize it. Yeah. So, not the point.
Sorry.
If there was one recurring joke that really frickin' bothered me, and I get why it's there, it's for the kids. That fucking ant that takes Scott's place under house arrest and wears the bracelet and everything. He shows up and they put the bracelet on him. A, that's not necessary. They could have just left the bracelet in the house. It needs to be moving. I don't know. Fine. It takes a bath at some point. It's got the scrub brush and everything. It's got the shower cap, and you're just like, okay. And then at the end, it's playing a freaking drum set. I don't care if Hank Pym was just like off camera, like giving it directions every 5 minutes, and we didn't see it. There's no ant that could be told to play a drum set and actually do it.
Maybe he learned to really like playing the drums.
Well, I know it's Marvel, and maybe the ants are some super intelligent alien species that have just been like hiding out this whole time.
He had to like 100% the song.
And if they ever explain it as such, I'll accept it. But for now, it's just an ant doing sight gags for babies, and it just took me out of the movie every time it happened. That's all.
I'll allow it. One of the reasons that I think I did enjoy this movie so much, and maybe even more so than the first one, even though the first one had more of like the ad-lib, like back and forward, like the humor in that one was a little more natural. But this movie, so close to Infinity Wars, I needed like a kind of break from that, and something that was just going to kind of be light for the most part, and which it did. And that probably also, until you mentioned it, is why I didn't really think about how flat and like not one-dimensional, but like not as fleshed out as some of the characters could have been. But
yeah, I mean, I get that. For me, life is pain, so it just rings as not true. Speaking of, we should probably talk about that ending. That, according to those same commercials that insisted this was the funniest Marvel movie, would blow my mind. And first of all, the real ending of the movie wasn't mind-blowing at all. Before the credits.
Yeah.
It was just, the story ended. I actually do like the fact, even though she was not that interesting or fleshed out, the fact that Ghost's character, in the end, sort of gets a tiny redemption arc. It gets fixed, and she's just like, okay, I'm not a bad guy anymore. She was just trying to save her own life, that's all. But anyway, the main ending, they get Janet back, and everyone's happy.
Come on, yeah.
It's really anticlimactic, which is actually kind of funny when I think about it. I like that. But
anticlimactic?
So obviously the commercials were not referring to... Yes, anticlimactic. Oh, God damn it. Obviously the commercials were not referring to that. They had to be referring to the first post-credit scene, or mid-credit scene. Which also should not be mind-blowing, because who didn't see that coming? We called it on camera.
My theater 100% forgot it was going to happen. No, like, seriously, because the song started happening, like, going on, and everything was happy, and I was like, oh god, no, now it's gonna happen, and then it got to the end, and people were like, oh, what are they doing? And then...
As soon as they picked up that scene, I was like, I know exactly how this is gonna...
The radio cut out, and then the camera cuts back, and, like, literally the entire row in front of me was like...
The point is... Your mind should not be blown. You've known one of these characters for less than an hour. And if you forgot that that's how the last movie ended, Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you?
I just enjoyed how shocked people seemed to be.
Don't get me wrong, I like laughing at dumb people too.
Oh, I didn't laugh. It still hurt, though.
But it just... another interesting point, and I'm not saying this... It's not even really that interesting. It was daytime.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also daytime in Wakanda. Now, it could easily have been the end of the day in Wakanda and the beginning, early in California. I'd have to check the map to make sure that works, but it's summer, so day is...
I did notice that too, because before the end credit scene, when it was nighttime, I was like, oh, because it's daytime in Africa. I didn't know if, like...
Well, yeah, the same thing with, not Luke Cage, Nick Fury and Maria at the end of Infinity War. I assume they were in America, and it was daytime.
Yeah.
So, just time zones are just a thing that a lot of people don't even think about. I'm kind of upset that I do. I
did in a fleeting way.
I think it can work. I haven't checked. And of course, Wakanda's fictional, so who the fuck knows? But yeah. This is really nitpicky, and it's the last thing I'm going to say about anything. Every time that... What did I say her name was? Ghost. Every time that Ghost is in the suit, she walks around, and I saw it in the commercials, and there was something about the way that she walked that really bugged me. I like the effects of like her powers and stuff like that. Those were really cool. Mm-hmm. But there's something about just the way that the actress moved, and I realized it as I was watching the movie. It's because she holds her hands like this no matter what she's doing, as long as she's in that suit. And I suspect it's because the gloves just didn't really allow for much mobility. But it's really distracting to have someone walking around like this. It was so bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Well... And I mean, just looking at it as possible explanation from whatever is going on in the movie, she did at one point say that she was like always in pain constantly. So
I get it. It seemed so.
I didn't notice that.
It was very distracting to me. I'm not saying it's bad. It was just so. I'm glad that I figured out what it was.
I might have been so distracted by the mask, though.
Yeah.
That I just didn't notice
very unsettling.
That. Yeah. It also reminded me of a mask from what else? Something in Star Wars? I don't know. It reminded me of a mask from something else, too, and I think that also distracted me.
So, Katie.
Yes.
Would recommend?
I would recommend. James, would you recommend?
I mean, you have to, right? I mean, at this point, anything that's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe... I mean, especially if you're a fan of the movies. You can probably skip all the TV shows and it doesn't really matter. But, there's enough things in this movie that sort of have some sort of bearing on other things. It's part of the machine. You gotta watch it if you really want the whole story. It had its problems. I won't say it wasn't entertaining. But I will say, honestly, and again, this is having only watched it once 5 days ago, it may very well be my least favorite Marvel movie. My new least favorite Marvel movie. Because after rewatching The Incredible Hulk a few times, it's actually grown on me a little bit. Still not great.
Incredible Hulk.
But, so, I guess that pretty much wraps up summer blockbuster season for us.
Yeah, huh?
Yeah, what are you going to do with your time off?
I'm going to go to Disneyland.
Really?
Yeah.
Sounds like fun.
That's what the kids do, right? When they have time to do things.
You're thinking of Super Bowl winners.
Oh,
I'm probably going to read a bunch of books about preteens that can turn into animals.
That sounds riveting.
So far. But yes, in light of that, if you liked this video, please tell your friends, spread the word, like, comment, subscribe, and, keep an eye out. We'll probably do something before, Fantastic Beasts come out in November. So yeah. Until then, we're Cady and Katie. We'll see you soon.
I'm just doodling.
Cool. Yeah, we didn't write anything for the post, so.
That's okay. We can take care of it in post.